I am now pleased to welcome Mr. Pierre Krähenbühl, Director General for the International Committee of the Red Cross, for high-level remarks.
Your Excellency, Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al-Thani, Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs of the State of Qatar, Excellencies, Ministers, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to begin by congratulating the State of Qatar for hosting the 2025 Global Security Forum. I wish to convey sincere appreciation for the invitation to address this forum and express recognition for the strategic partnership between the International Committee of the Red Cross, the ICRC, and Qatar. For the past 160 years, the ICRC has been present in almost every conflict environment that comes to mind, providing humanitarian services to people impacted by those dramatic situations. As we speak, colleagues of mine are working in over 100 conflict situations around the world, visiting prisoners of war and reuniting civilians in Ukraine and the Russian Federation, providing life-saving medical assistance in Sudan and the Democratic Republic of Congo, searching for missing persons in dozens of countries, preserving water systems serving millions of Syrians, and involved in high-risk humanitarian efforts in Gaza, the West Bank, and Israel. We do so adhering strictly to our fundamental principles of neutrality, impartiality, and humanity, which enable access in difficult war zones, dialogue with states, and over 200 non-state armed groups, as well as enabling resolution of delicate humanitarian challenges. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we are all in one way or another connected to the reality of war. Despite our collective attention to conflict, it remains very difficult to properly convey what wars are actually about. Often we focus on the acronyms of warring parties, on the latest weaponry in use on the battlefield. But from an ICRC perspective, the wars that we deal with are first and foremost about their human consequences. It is the moment where on the hilltop of your village, enemy forces arrive and you have only a few minutes to decide what elements you will take away and take along with you into exile. It is about being blindfolded and led down a cold and empty corridor of a prison, hearing the cries of fellow detainees being tortured. I raise this because we treat the realities of war too casually. At present, we observe a growing polarization in the world that is leading to a proliferation of conflicts and conflict risks. These include a resurgence of conflicts between states and a large number of conflicts involving non-state armed groups. It also involves the increasing use of new technologies, artificial intelligence, and cyber on the battlefield. Wars are today long-lasting, causing endless loss of life and the destruction of the institutional backbone of entire societies. The more devastation we allow, the longer and more arduous the path to dialogue and reconciliation will be. We are also confronted with permissive interpretations of international humanitarian law, the rules that bind all parties to a conflict and should protect civilians, prisoners, and the sick and wounded on the battlefield. We witness daily the catastrophic human consequences of these wars, in which even humanitarian organizations and staff are more and more frequently attacked, whether physically, through harmful information campaigns, or the criminalization of humanitarian action. We feel indignation at the waves of brutality experienced by the civilian population in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, at the atrocities inflicted on the people of Sudan, and the horrors witnessed daily in the Gaza Strip. Today's wars are becoming the graveyards of our humanity, where respect for the laws of war are being buried alongside those they are meant to protect. We are seeing a normalization of the intolerable in conflict zones across the world. And if what we are witnessing in Gaza, which is the very incarnation of hell, is the future of warfare, the very foundations of our humanity are at stake. Spend just a few moments to imagine what the Palestinian civilian population in Gaza is experiencing and enduring. Women and children, death, injury, multiple displacements, amputations, separation, disappearance, starvation, and denial of aid and dignity on a massive scale. And just when the all-important ceasefire led people to believe they had survived the worst, a new inferno was unleashed. This includes the trauma of families of Israeli hostages who face a never-ending nightmare, and of the families of Palestinian prisoners. Over 400 aid workers and 1,000 healthcare workers have been killed in Gaza, including 36 from the Red Cross and Red Crescent movement. We are at a security forum, and nothing happening in Gaza is, in my mind, reconcilable with anybody's dignity or security, current or future. This horror and dehumanization will haunt us for decades and to come, and no one will be able to say, "I was not aware." We need a fundamental change in mindset and political action. We need new ideas and actions in terms of conflict prevention and conflict resolution. I mentioned earlier the average long duration of conflicts, which points to a systemic weakness in today's conflict resolution approaches. For too long have we heard, again and again, parties say, and I quote, "We will never talk again to the other side," unquote, as if political courage was today measured in the refusal to talk. In this context, the leadership shown by the State of Qatar when it comes to mediation and the search for dialogue deserves the highest recognition. The ICRC has worked closely with Qatar in relation to the efforts that led to the release of hostages held by Hamas in Gaza and prisoners held by Israel. We have also worked together on humanitarian initiatives and confidence-building measures in Ukraine and the Russian Federation, for example, in the returns of civilians and children. We are also analyzing opportunities for humanitarian steps in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The combination of political action, mediation by a state, and the ICRC's neutral intermediary role, which gives us an access and trust with parties needed to solve delicate challenges, represent a strong added value. We appreciate the cooperation with Qatar in this respect. Similarly, it is vital that wars are fought respecting the rules of international humanitarian law. Fighting wars without rules, undermining their foundations, is a recipe for disaster. In September last year, we launched a global initiative to galvanize political support for international humanitarian law, and we are grateful for the great interest the initiative has generated among states and other actors. The rules are often violated, yet when applied, they save lives, and their respect makes the path to dialogue and reconciliation easier. Indeed, every process that leads to resolving conflicts starts with small humanitarian steps. The ICRC does not have a political role, nor do we have a position on the political dimensions of the conflicts we work in. But we do have the experience, and we experience every day the horrors and human consequences of war and their security implications for countries far and wide. It is not enough, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, to say after every major conflict, and I quote, "never again," unquote. We must act together decisively to rediscover the humanity in the other. Thank you very much.